Hey, what's up everyone? James here, and today we are going to talk about what happened to Adrian Peterson, one of the best running backs in the history of football. Guys, make sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. It helps out my channel a lot. Adrian Peterson was born in Palestine, Texas, with two parents that were both star athletes in college. So from an early age, he was very into athletics. Peterson had such an insane work ethic that his own father gave him the nickname All Day, as he could just keep grinding and working all day long, more than anybody else. However, Peterson had many tragedies that happened to him in his life. At just age 7, Peterson lost his 9-year-old brother to a drunk driver while he was riding his bicycle. As many athletes do, Peterson turned to football to deal with his pain. He was so good when he was young that his youth football coach said, "We will all watch AD all day play in the NFL one of these days." However, when Peterson was just 13 years old, his father was arrested for money laundering in a crack cocaine ring. So again, Peterson, without his brother, his father in prison, he turned to football, where he ended up turning into a superstar. Adrian Peterson played football for the Palestine High School Wildcats. As a junior in high school, he had 2,051 yards and 22 touchdowns while averaging 8.3 yards per carry. These were amazing numbers. However, as a senior, he had 2,960 yards and 32 touchdowns, while get this, averaging an insane 11.7 yards per carry. He was so good in high school that many around the nation, including NFL scouts, said that he could go straight to the NFL and dominate. Many around the nation thought this was crazy, but when he made the jump to college, he proved to everybody why they were saying that. He was the #1 recruit in the nation and signed with the Oklahoma Sooners. His final choices were actually down to Oklahoma and USC, and you're going to see why. That's actually pretty funny. He chose Oklahoma because he thought out of all the teams, they were in the best position to win a championship. As a true freshman, Adrian Peterson went on to have one of the best seasons in college football history. As just a true freshman, Peterson had 339 carries for 1,925 yards and 15 touchdowns. Guys, this was for Oklahoma, a Power 5 conference. As a true freshman, these numbers were unheard of. However, he only finished in second place in a Heisman race to Matt Leinart, the quarterback for the USC Trojans he almost signed with. Many felt that he was robbed and that he was actually the best player in the nation. To cap off his freshman year, he actually had the opportunity to get revenge and beat Leinart in the national championship game. However, if you know the story, Oklahoma got crushed and annihilated 55-19, where Peterson only had 82 yards on 25 carries. Still, he had one of the best seasons in college football history, especially as a freshman, so the future was bright. However, over the next 2 seasons, he suffered injuries, missed games, and had different ups and downs through his last 2 seasons at Oklahoma. He was able to put up 2 more 1,000-yard seasons, but again, his injuries kept him from his freshman greatness. Now, despite these small injuries, every NFL team was still coveting and wanted Peterson in the draft. This takes us to the 2007 NFL Draft. There were a few scouts and teams that were knocking Adrian Peterson for not being a dual threat because he didn't catch a lot of passes in college, but everybody knew that he was going to be a star. He actually ended up slipping to the 7th overall pick, going to the Minnesota Vikings. And yes, this was the same draft where Jamarcus Russell went #1 overall to Oakland. Now, Adrian Peterson was going to show the entire league just how much he would dominate. As a rookie, Adrian Peterson put up 1,341 yards and 11 touchdowns. But in his second season, he showed everybody why he was the best running back in the league, as he had 1,760 yards and 10 more touchdowns. Every team learned to fear Peterson and was forced to gameplay around him every single week. Peterson is known as one of the most violent running backs the NFL has ever seen. Every week and every season, every single defensive player knew they had to stop Peterson or they would be embarrassed by him. Adrian Peterson had some of the best stiff arms and power runs ever, period. Adrian Peterson has embarrassed so many defenders over his career that you can Google highlights of him doing just that. Now, he had a fantastic few years in the season, but this leads us into the 2012 season, which was Peterson's most historic year. He rushed for 2,097 yards and 12 touchdowns. He actually finished just 8 yards short of the all-time NFL single-season rushing record, which is actually held by Eric Dickerson, set all the way back in 1984. This monstrous season led to him winning the MVP in what was one of the best seasons we have ever seen from a running back. Even to this day, only 7 running backs in NFL history have ever surpassed the 2,000-yard rushing mark for a single season. In this season, Peterson had highlight after highlight after highlight. Everyone who watched Adrian Peterson in his prime was always in awe of how hard he ran and how hard he played. If you were a cornerback trying to tackle Adrian Peterson, you were scared. All of this was fantastic on the field. However, as I stated earlier, off the field, there was some more controversy and tragedies that happened. The following year, after his MVP year in 2013, Adrian Peterson's 2-year-old son passed away tragically. Peterson actually only learned of his son even existing just a few weeks before his death. The mother had kept this news from Adrian Peterson. Now, going into the 2013 season, this year, after his 2,000-yard year, he had just 1,266 yards and 10 touchdowns. Now, this was definitely lower after his MVP year, but again, Adrian Peterson never really played with the best talent in Minnesota, and the Vikings finished the year just 5-10-1. Now, the following season in 2014 was a disaster for Peterson, as in 2014 he was actually indicted for reckless injury to a child. He was said to have punished his son with a switch, which for those of you who don't know is a tree branch. He said it was used on him in his own childhood, so that's why he thought it was okay, and that's why he used it on his own son. He avoided jail for this as he pled guilty. However, Adrian Peterson was only able to play in the first game of the year. After this, the NFL put him on suspension and they kept delaying, but at the end of the year, he ended up playing just that first game. It was suspended the whole season without pay. This leads us to one of his last great seasons, and what many say was his last great season. In 2015, he had 1,485 yards and 11 touchdowns for the Vikings. Now, the Vikings were actually pretty good, and they finished the season 11-5. However, they lost in the wildcard game at home to the Seahawks 10-9, as Peterson was shut down and only had 45 yards on 23 carries. So what happened after that game? Well, in the 2016 season, he only played in 3 games due to an LCL sprain and ended up missing the rest of the season. After the season, the Vikings decided to let him go as they didn't think he was worth $18 million at the age of 31 years old. Now, many Vikings fans were very sad and honestly mad that they were letting him go after so many successful years with him. This led to him signing with the New Orleans Saints, where he only lasted part of the season as they had many disagreements on how to play him, play calling, and what his role was on the team. That led to him being traded to the Arizona Cardinals for a 6th-round draft pick. Now, at Arizona, he looked more like his old self with a few good games before getting injured and missing the last 6 games. He actually had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in his first game as a Cardinal. This had him looking like his old self again. However, after the season was over, the Cardinals decided it wasn't worth the risk and they let Peterson go. Now, all of this leads us into the 2018 season, where Peterson signed a contract with the Washington Redskins. He ended up rushing for 1,042 yards and 7 touchdowns. Again, solid numbers for Peterson, and even though he's over the age of 30, is still putting up great numbers. Last season in 2019, he rushed for 898 yards and 5 touchdowns. This is a far cry from his old MVP numbers, but still, at his age, he's putting up great numbers, and now at 35 years old, he's still in great shape, and he just signed another contract with the Redskins for 1 more season. He's been averaging 4.2 yards per carry the last 2 seasons, so he's still a very effective running back. Now, it is still up in the air if this season will even happen or not, but Peterson says he wants to play for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 more seasons. Now, we will see if that happens, but what do you guys think? Peterson is one of the best players of all time at his position and is still fighting strong. We may not ever see another running back like Peterson due to the way the NFL is changing to more of a passing attack. Over his career so far, he has made 7 Pro Bowls, 4 All-Pro teams, and 1 MVP season with 14,216 career yards with 111 touchdowns. I personally have loved watching him over the years, and I'll be sad when he retires. I hope he can keep going for a few more years and even 4 more years, because that would honestly be really cool. Guys, thanks so much for watching the video. Let me know down in the comments below what you think will happen. Can he have another 1,000-yard season? How many years does he have left? And what are your favorite Adrian Peterson moments? Guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and as always guys, I will see you next time.